What it do, Crew Excellence? I'm back and I'm happy to be here with you today by my lonesome. As always, you know, if I'm dolo solo, that means you're going to get some stuff. So bring out your pen and pad and we're going to hop right into it. But before we jump into the ladder, I just want to make sure that you know, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We are building this thing. By the time you hear this, we should be past 200. We're racing towards 500 subscribers. And all the reason I want to get there because I want as many people as possible to have a chance to pursue excellence. And so if you can share, comment, and like this video, it just helps more people see it. And I think today's episode is super specific for some people that you know in your network, right? So let's jump into it without further ado. The Ladder Podcast, it exists so that if you're a leader, which means if you're a person, right, you have an opportunity to have tools that will take you to the next level in your journey. Because I believe that every person is a leader in some capacity and has an opportunity to pursue excellence. They just need some help. And so this podcast exists to give you that help. All right. Now that we've done all our housekeeping, okay, we can get into the podcast. And especially if you're new, my apologies. Where are my manners? I'm Justin Strickland, the podcast host of The Ladder. You might know me from some family photos because I usually be hanging out with your auntie or your grandma, okay? And I'm their favorite Crew Excellence member, that is. And I'm taking you along this journey. And so today episode, I'm going to hop in. We're going to talk about specifically higher education. Because if you didn't know, if you're new to the crew, I develop leaders. That's my job. I'm a leadership development coach. And specifically, I work with higher education institutions. So I work with colleges and universities on developing their staff or their students on how to become better leaders so they can impact these universities, these colleges. Because as someone who has been to multiple colleges, I realized that one of the colleges is like one of my favorite places in the world because it's where people come together with a common goal to be better. And so I want to, as a leadership development coach for higher education institutions, I want to set up those places to help people be better as best they can. Because I realize as far as we look into the next generation, a lot of our leaders in a lot of different industries are on college campuses right now. And so if I can help that experience maximize their journey towards excellence, I feel like I can really, really help change the world. And so today I want to talk about 5 problems that I've encountered when I'm talking to higher education leaders. Okay. And so I'm going to talk about the 5 problems. And as I talk through each problem, we'll go through solutions. And hopefully, if you are a higher education leader, these will be things that you've heard or thought before. And these solutions, although in a small format, right, not like I would do if you hire me as your coach, will help provide you some relief. Okay. And so here are 5 things. I'm gonna start with number 1. Okay. Number 1 thing that I hear from higher education leaders is I'm struggling to engage faculty and staff effectively. And so when I hear that, what I'm hearing is I have this team. We hired them. I believe that they can do more. I believe that they can do better, but I'm having an issue motivating them and engaging them to do so. And one of the things that I look at with that is, one, we might have to evaluate your hiring process, right? Because sometimes you haven't done the pre-work to put people in the correct position. And that could be a part of the low engagement, is that people aren't necessarily passionate about what they do. So that's the first thing. But say you've done all your pre-work, you've hired the right people, they're in the right position, but your engagement is still low. We figure out what are the key engagement drivers, right? Is it money, right? Is it, because that's the thing I hear sometimes, right? Like, man, if I make more money, I do more, right? So sometimes because of money, you might have to restructure your schedule. If you got a person making $45 a year, they might not be as motivated, you know what I mean, to get as much stuff done. So you might have to align their schedule so they know exactly what is the most important thing for them to do, right? And so they're doing that most, so their most impactful actions are the things that are actually most impactful, okay? Sorry, not most impactful. The actions they do the most are the things that are most impactful, right? So you might have to do that and sit down with them and find that out. Another thing we do is, and because we do that, right? So we find if it's money, if it's time, is it recognition? Do you have a space where you recognize some of your team members for doing a great job? A lot of times that's all that it takes is weekly recognition, monthly recognition. Hey, so-and-so killing it. Here, a $50 Starbucks gift card. We appreciate what you do. Blast on the website, blast an email, poster in the hallway by the office. Sometimes that's enough to where staff will feel seen, right? And a lot of times I've worked in higher education. We love what we do because we love as kids, but a lot of times we don't feel seen by administration. We don't feel seen by our team leader because it's almost like what we do is an afterthought, right? And so, but if you flip that on its head and make sure they know what they do is vital and is very important, you might see an increase in engagement. And then the last thing is just going over what your expectations are for those positions and how you expect them to engage with not only you, but with the students. And because a lot of times job descriptions can be robotic and it can be it can be black and white. And I remember when I'm working in higher ed, the one job description that we all understood was and any additional duties. That's the one thing that we knew what meant because it meant they could make us do whatever they wanted. And so be clear in saying, hey, this is where we are as a staff, as a team, right? And this is where your gifting is, and this is where my gifting is, and this is where I need you to kind of shine. And having those conversations can be a great way to kind of ignite someone's passion again, especially if they've been in it for a long time. And also can help move someone in the right direction if they're new to the team, right? A lot of times when you're new to a team, you just kind of fill it out. You don't really know where you should go and how you should because you don't step on no one's toes. Well, if as a leader, you step into that space and say, hey, this is where I need you. This is why we hired you. This is what you're amazing at. Go knock this stuff out the park. You'll see an increase in engagement. And it's because when we do it that way, we go about it that way, identifying those key engagement drivers, it will lead to a targeted, effective engagement strategy, right? Because now I've identified what's going to get us to where I want to go. And so my strategy is on point as we move towards that space. And then the last part is just adjusting your communication so that your strategy resonates. Because it does us no good to have a great game plan and no one knows it or no one understands it. I coach basketball as well. I'm coaching 8th grade right now. They are really good. It's probably one of the better teams I've coached. But even still, there are a lot of things that in my head, basketball wise, that I can't do with them. It might be a great game plan, might be a great strategy, but they're not there yet where they can understand it and execute it. And so even the things we have, I make sure that not only is it effective, but I communicate it clearly and often. And so that's what has to happen. After you know how to engage your staff and you have a strategy, you have to communicate it clearly and often so that they are able to execute it effectively. Okay. Problem number 2 I hear is my initiatives just not resonating with our campus community. So one of the things in higher ed that we do is we try to keep it fresh. We try to keep the student experience from being mundane because we understand that is a huge reason why people go to college. A huge reason why people stay in college is that their student experience is exciting and it's engaging. And so what we do is we have these different initiatives and we might look up and we've done 5, 6 initiatives and all of them have kind of like fallen short. Right? All of them have not had the response that when we was in our room with our team, we was like, hey, these initiatives, when they find out about this, we're going to have all the kids and they all going to sign up and they all going to feel seen and welcome and known. And then after it's like, so we got like the same amount of kids, the same ones and so when your initiatives aren't resonating, one reason is you're making decisions apart from your key stakeholders, right? Where you're making top-down decisions. And that can feel like the right thing to do because you're like, I'm the one with the expertise. But the issue is if you don't have any way to engage key stakeholders other than the people making decisions, your initiatives can be off mark. You can be close, but keep missing the mark on those. And so the first thing that we would do is find a way to conduct kind of a campus research with the key stakeholders. So that's students, that's staff outside of your team, right? And that can be even admin, people above you, and say, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is where we would like to go, what do you all think would resonate on our campus? What, when you talk to admin or other staff, what do you think aligns with our mission and our impact that we're trying to have? And what will happen is when you do that, your initiatives will be completely impossible to ignore, because the people that they're for will know they're for them because they help develop them, right? And not even they help develop the initiative, but they help develop how they look and how they feel to the people that they're supposed to impact. And that is vital to any initiative. That market research is vital to any kind of industry. And I know in higher ed, we are research based, right? We stay on research based institutions, but a lot of times when we're doing work, front facing work, right? When we're impacting and touching students every day, we kind of forget about that kind of research based model. And that's something that is definitely impossible to ignore if you want to do it right. Is it slower? Yes. You can't just have a Monday crank things out if you do it this way. But what happens too, if you start getting rhythm of that, then you'll start to know what students want, and you won't have to do it as often. You do it once a semester, once a quarter, right? And then now you know, okay, this is how they feel in this semester. This is how we feel in this quarter. And these are the things we know from the past that worked. We run with this, right? And then we re-engage when we feel like an initiative hasn't worked how we want it to. And so you have to build a collaborative approach, whatever that looks like for your institution. It might be bringing some student leaders on your team as just volunteer wise, right? It might be hosting campus wide kind of fireside chat. It might be making sure that you might have exit surveys, right? When you throw an event, you throw a little QR code up around. Hey, fill this out. Let me know how this went. Let me know what you would have done different, what you would have done better, what you enjoyed about this event, what you didn't like. Like, those kind of things can be invaluable when you're trying to build initiatives that are maximize your impact, right? So that's number 2. Number 3 is, man, we feel disconnected from the student body. Hey, this happens quick as you get old. I'm just being honest. Like, cause most times when you get into higher ed, most people get into it right after college. And so they 23, 24, 25, 26. And it's not a big gap between you and the students. So you know what they like because you are the same age, right? You know what experience they're looking for because you were just there. And it's super easy for you to kind of feel connected. Like, a lot of times you go out, you see your students, right? And that's just part of higher ed. Well, when you get into your 30s, your 40s, that kind of gap between you all just grows and grows. And so what ends up happening is, especially as higher ed, like the leaders, the real decision makers, they feel disconnected. They go to work, they go home. They don't see their kids out no more. They're not at the late night hangouts. They're not in the student union just sitting and chatting and they don't have those kind of relationships cause like, think about it. You stay on the campus, say you work on the campus you graduated from, and you were a senior last year and you got a freshman buddy. Well, now you work and they a sophomore. Man, y'all still eating lunch together, right? Cause that's still your homie. Even though you an employee now, that's the fam, right? Well, when you 40, right, you don't have those same kind of relationships unless you're intentional, right? And so one thing is we have to be intentional. So the first thing is we have to implement strategies for student interaction. So that may look like, hey, I go eat lunch in the caf. You know what I'm saying? I sit at a random table with some students that I recognize and I chat it up with them. I become human to them, right? I might have office hours where I schedule, not only do I encourage people to come, I schedule meetings with kids. Like, hey, come see me at 3. It ain't nothing serious. You ain't in trouble, but I really just want to pick your brain, see how your experience is going. Those can be invaluable, right? As far as building relationships and reconnecting you to a campus community, because that connection that you have with your student body is the one that makes sure that all the things you do, right? We just talked about impact and initiative. All of those things really come from a foundation of what relationships do you have in the campus community with students? Who do you know that if you tell them, hey, this is what we doing, they pulling up? Because once you get to college, that's your greatest advertisement. It's peer-to-peer. If you can get the right group of peers to advertise your initiatives, to advertise your event, you never have to do anything. They do it for you because they love you and they love what you're trying to do. They understand what you're trying to do. So that's what happens. You have to really engage strategies for meaningful student interaction. And then that will lead to, like I said, a supporting student community, which will naturally engage with the student body. And so once you are intentional in building out relationships that reconnect you to the student body does the work for you. And so you have to realize, like, you're not too old, right? You're not too busy to engage with students on a human level, not on a boss or not on a supplier to customer level, but just on a human level, and build those relationships, because those relationships don't have a price. They don't have a cost, right? No matter what time you sacrifice, it is worth it because of what comes out of it. All right. And then the fourth thing that I hear is, man, leadership development programs aren't impactful. One is because you ain't worked with your boy. You need to come over here to the dark side. We be getting it right. All right. But also, it's usually because you haven't really analyzed kind of what you do right now. Most higher education institutions, especially like in the student facing side, so I'm talking about like student housing, student affairs, student services, they don't have a lot of leadership development strategies in place. They expect you to come to work and get better, right? You've been here 2 years. You should be better. But we all know that's not really how that works. A lot of times, you don't get better, you get robotic, okay? You get used to doing the things that you're asked to do, and you just do those things and go home. Well, we have to figure out what the gaps or opportunities are. So what are you doing and what are you not doing? What are you doing that we can improve? What are you not doing that we can start doing? And then from that, we develop a program that makes a difference, because leadership development, think about this, because I think it's ironic that we work at higher ed institutions, we work at colleges and universities that are, the vision and mission for almost all of them is to develop leaders in some capacity, right? We want to take students from 18 to ideally 22, maybe 23, right? And we want to turn them into leaders. Shout out to my adult learners, no shade, but we want to turn them into leaders that impact the world. So how ironic is it that that's our vision and mission, but we don't have any internal leadership development strategies, right? We're not being intentional and prioritizing developing our leaders, right? So they can develop the students into leaders. And so we have to have some kind of strategy and plan. We can't just expect employees to show up to our annual conference, right, and become better. It's got to be more in depth than that. It has to be a longer approach than that, and it has to be very intentional, and it has to be strategy, right? It can't just be accidental where we're like, hey, we pull up to this and we hope you get better. We got to stop hoping, right? We're educators. We have to figure out a curriculum, right? Develop something that makes sense at the end. The conclusion is you're a better leader, right? Okay. So jumping into number 5, and I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me today. If you haven't liked yet and you still here, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Just like the video. It don't cost you nothing. It's just a click, right? But we jumping into the 5th one, and that is interest without commitment. Now, this is a huge one. And what that means is, and we're talking about staff-wise here, so not student focused, because we know they're kids. So we're not talking about them. We're talking about staff. And what I mean is staff are passionate about impacting students, but they're not committed to doing it at our university. They're not committed to doing it at our college. And so one of the things that happens, and one of the reasons why that happens, especially in higher education, is there's often not a clear map of how I can improve within this organizational structure. And so what I mean by that is if I come in as a housing specialist, what does it look like to become the assistant housing director? What does it look like to become the housing director? Is that an option, right? And what are the steps that you would like me to take so that I make myself available for that position? Because a lot of times, and I get it, in higher ed, it's a wonderful job if you love students. And so a lot of times people be around for a long, long time, and these positions don't open up. But if I can still lay a pathway for your improvement, what I'm telling you is I care about you in the long term. So even if I know Jamarcus is going to be here as the director of housing for the next 10 years because he's been here for 15 years and he loves what he does and his family's here, even if I know that, I can still say, hey, this is what prepared Jamarcus to be a great director of housing. These are things you can do as a specialist to start getting ready for that. So even when you're ready, if it's not here, we can send you out to another university or college where you will be prepared to be successful. And I know that sounds counterproductive, right? Because I'm talking about how do you retain employees, and it's like preparing them to leave. Well, what happened is when employees feel like you're preparing them, when you're developing them, they will have a loyalty to that to you because you've developed them. And so they might stay longer than they should, right? In a job they're overqualified for because you developed them, and they appreciate that, right? And so what you're doing is, yes, you're preparing them to leave you, but you're also giving them a reason to stay. Okay. And when we talk about retention rates and things like that in higher ed, a lot of times the reason that they don't stay isn't because there's better opportunities. It's because they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel seen. They don't feel known where they are. And if they were developed, if they were valued, right, even if they were overqualified, they would stay because they feel like they're a part of a family. They feel like they're part of a team that cares about them. They feel like their leader wants them to be successful. And when I've worked on a ton of different people, a lot of you have worked under different people. When you have a leader that wants you to be successful, it'd be hard to lead them. Even if you know you're supposed to, even if they know, a lot of times they have to say, hey, yo, it's time. It's time for you to move on. They have to tell you because you like, nah, man, they done did this for me. They done did that for me. They look out for me. Man, we got a good team. We got a good relationship. And you'll hang in there longer than you're supposed to because you appreciate what they've done for you. And so that's what I'm talking about. That's how you get interest with commitment, is you find out what they need and you develop an individual path for them to be successful, and they'll commit to you. They will. It's just human nature, right? And so that is, and you know, when you streamline that process, you make sure, because it might be harder to do. You might have a 40-person team or staff. It might be harder to have those individual conversations. You got to be intentional. You got to create space. And once you do it regularly, it'll become a lot easier for you to streamline that process. But it's invaluable because think about it. If you got a 40-person team or staff, and every year you got to replace 7, 8 staff members, right? That's a lot of money and time and resources that you're giving because your retention rate is down. Now let's flip that. Say you got this, you have interest with commitment, and now you don't got to replace 2 a year. What are you able to accomplish because you don't have the turnover rate you used to? All right. And the 2 that you replaced, we're training other people to replace them. Like, come on, man. I know it sounds like a dream world, but it's possible if you do it right. Okay. I'm telling you it's possible. So those are the 5 problems I hear and 5 answers I gave. I'm going to run through them again, right? Just so I want you to hear the problem. YouTube will create chapters for this. So if you want to rewind, you can go back and rehear a solution to a problem that you might have. They are, number 1, I'm struggling to engage faculty and staff effectively. Number 2, my initiatives don't resonate with the campus community. Number 3, I feel disconnected from the student body. Number 4, our leadership development programs aren't impactful. And number 5, potential leaders are present, but they don't step up. Okay. Those are 5 problems right here. Hopefully I gave you a solution today that will help you. And if you do want to engage with me, I'm going to drop my LinkedIn profile here in the description. Hit me up on LinkedIn. We can get together ASAP because it's the time of the year for higher ed. New year just started, right? And you're planning your fall retreats, right? You're getting your new hires ready. Bring me in. Let's get it right. Let's get it together. Shameless plug. Hey, you get the pod for free. Okay. I'm trying to make some bread over here and I can make it with you and helping you change the impact that you have. Okay. Now I love you. And if you've been here this whole time, I'm honored and privileged that you spent some time with me. There are billions of videos posted every day on YouTube across all these different platforms, but you took some time today to hang out with your boy, and I will forever be in your debt. Until next time, man, it's been the Ladder Podcast, and I will be somewhere enjoying my wife and my family and my life as an excellent leader, and I would love for you to do the same. All right, man. Peace.